And here comes our conductor now, Kirill Karabets, to join the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra and chorus for our first piece tonight. I Was Glad by Hubert Parry. rousing start to our concert tonight. Kirill Karavits conducting the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra and Chorus in I Was Glad by Hubert Parry, orchestrated by Gordon Jacob. That version created for the Queen's coronation in 1953, and in more recent times, it was heard in 2011 at the wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton, Duke and Duchess of Cambridge.
Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention. A kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then should the warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. But pardon, gentles, all, the flat, unreared spirits that have dared on this unworthy scaffold to bring forth so great an object. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram into this wooden O the very casks that did affright the air at Agincourt? On your imaginary forces work. Suppose within the girdle of these walls are now confined two mighty monarchies, whose high uprearing and abutting fronts the perilous narrow ocean parts asunder. Piece out our imperfections with your thoughts. Into 1,000 parts divide one man and make imaginary puissance. Think when we talk of horses that you see them, printing their proud hooves i' the receiving earth. For 'tis your thoughts which now must deck our kings. Carry them here and there, jumping o'er times, turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass. For the which supply, admit me chorus to this history, who prologue-like your humble patience pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play. half is dead. The king hath killed his heart. Save thy grace. King Hal, my royal Hal, God save thee, my sweet boy, my king, my Jove. I speak to thee, my heart. I know thee not, old man, fall to thy prayers. How ill white hairs become a fool and jester. I have long dreamed of such a kind of man, so surfeit-swelled, so old and so profane. But being awake, I do despise my dream. Reply not to me with a full-born jest. Presume not that I am the thing I was. For God doth know, so shall the world perceive, that I have turned away my former self. So will I those that kept me company. And silken dalliance in the wardrobe lies. Now thrive the armourers, and honour's thought reigns solely in the breast of every man. They sell the pasture now to buy the horse, following the mirror of all Christian kings, with winged heels as English Mercuries. Now sits expectation in the air, and hides a sword from hilts unto the point, with crowns imperial, crowns and coronets promised to Harry and his followers. The king is set from London, and the scene is now transported, gentles, to Southampton. There is the playhouse now, there must you sit, and thence to France shall we convey you safe, and bring you back, charming the narrow seas, to give you gentle pass, for if we may, we'll not offend one stomach with our play. Suppose that you have seen the well-appointed king at Hampton Pier embark his royalty and his brave fleet with silken streamers the young Phoebus fanning. Play with your fancies, and in them behold, upon the hempen tackle ship boys climbing. Hear the shrill whistle which doth order give to sounds confused. Behold the threatened sails, borne with the invisible and creeping wind, draw the huge vessel through the furrowed sea, breasting the lofty surge. Oh, do but think, you stand upon the rivage and behold a city on the inconstant billows dancing. For so appears his fleet majestical, holding due course to Harfleur, follow! Cheerly to sea, the signs of war advance. No king of England, if not king of France. Farewell, divine Xenocrate. It is not passing brave to be a king and ride in triumph through Persepolis. Touch her soft lips and part. Or close the wall up with our English dead. In peace, there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and tranquility, but when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger. Stiffen the sinews, conjure up the blood. Disguise fair nature with hard-favoured rage. Then lend the eye a terrible aspect. Let it pry through the portage of the head like the brass cannon. Let the brow o'erwhelm it. As fearfully as doth the gollid rock o'erhang and jutty his confounded base, swilled with the wild and wasteful ocean. Now set the teeth and stretch the nostril wide, hold hard the breath, and bend up every spirit to his full height. On, you noblest English, whose blood is fet from fathers of war-proof, fathers that, like so many Alexanders, have in these parts from morn till even fought, and sheathed their swords for lack of argument. Dishonour not your mothers, now attest that those who you call fathers did beget you. Be copy now to men of grosser blood, and teach them how to war, and you, good yeoman, whose limbs were made in England, show us here the mettle of your pasture, which I doubt not. For there is none of you so mean and base that hath not noble lustre in your eyes. I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start, the game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge, cry God for Harry, England, and Sir John! Now entertain conjecture of a time when creeping murmur and the pouring dark fills the wide vessel of the universe. From camp to camp, through the foul womb of night, the hum of either army stilly sounds. that the fixed sentinels almost receive the secret whispers of each other's watch. Fire answers fire, and through their paly flames, each battle sees the other's umbered face. Steed threatens steed in high and boastful neighs, piercing the night's dull ear. And from the tents, the armourers accomplishing the nights, with busy hammers closing rivets up, give dreadful note of preparation. The country cocks do crow, the clocks do toll, and the third hour of drowsy morning name. Proud of their numbers and secure in soul, the confident and over-lusty French do the low-rated English play at dice, and chide the crippled tardy-gated knight, who like a foul and ugly witch doth limp so tediously away. The poor condemned English, like sacrifices by their watchful fires, sit patiently and inly ruminate the morning's danger. Their gesture sad, investing lank lean cheeks and war-worn coats, presenteth them unto the gazing moon so many horrid ghosts. Oh, now who will behold the royal captain of this ruined band? Walking from watch to watch, from tent to tent, let him cry praise and glory on his head. For forth he goes, and visits all his host, bids them good morrow with a modest smile, and calls them brothers, friends, and countrymen. Upon his royal face there is no note how dread an army hath surrounded him, nor doth he dedicate one drop of colour unto the weary and all-watched night, but freshly looks, and overbears a taint, with cheerful semblance and sweet majesty, that every wretch, pining and pale before, beholding him, plucks comfort from his looks. A largesse universal, like the sun, his liberal eye doth give to everyone, thawing cold fear that mean and gentle all behold as may unworthiness define. A little touch of Harry in the night. Upon the King, let us our lives, our souls, our debts, our careful wives, our children, and our sins lay on the King. We must bear all, or hard condition. Twin born with greatness, subject to the breath of every fool whose sense no more can feel but his own ringing, what infinite heart's ease must kings neglect that private men enjoy? And what have kings that privates have not too? Save ceremony, save general ceremony. And what art thou, thou idle ceremony? What kind of God art thou that suffers more of mortal griefs than do thy worshippers? What drink'st thou oft instead of homage sweet, but poisoned flattery? Oh, be sick, great greatness, and bid thee thy ceremony give thee cure. Think'st thou the fever will go out with titles blown from adulation? Canst thou, when thou commandst the beggar's knee, command the health of it? No, thou proud dream! The place so subtly with a king's repose. I am a king that find thee, and I know 'tis not the balm, the sceptre and the ball, the sword, the mace, the crown imperial, the throne he sits on, nor the tide of pomp that beats upon the high shore of this world. No, not all these, thrice gorgeous majesty, not all these laid in bed majestical, can sleep so soundly as the wretched slave, who with a body filled and vacant mind gets him to rest crammed with distressful bread. Never sees horrid night, the child of hell, but like a lackey from the rise to set, sweats in the eye of Phoebus, and all night sleeps in Elysium. Next day after dawn doth rise and help Hyperion to his horse, and follow so the ever-running year with profitable labour to his grave. And but for ceremony, such a wretch, winding up days with toil and nights with sleep, hath the forehand and vantage of a king. O God of battles, steel my soldiers' hearts. Possess them not with fear, take from them now the sense of reckoning ere the opposed numbers pluck their hearts from them. This day is called the Feast of Crispian. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when this day is named and rouse him at the name of Crispian. He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbours and say, tomorrow is St. Crispian. Then will he strip his sleeve and show his scars and say, these wounds I had on Crispin's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son, And Crispin Crispian shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world, but he in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother, be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whilst any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's day. Awake remembrance of our valiant dead, and with your puissant arms renew their feats. You are their heir, you sit upon their throne. The blood and courage that renowned them runs in your veins, and my thrice puissant liege is in the very Maymorn of his youth, ripe for exploits and mighty enterprises. The sun is high. Now, soldiers, march away. And how thou pleasest, God, dispose the day. The day is ours. Praised be God, and not our strength for it. For when, without stratagem, but in plain shock and even play of battle, was ever known so great and little loss on one side and on other, take it, God, for it is none but thine. A castle stands hard by, they call it Agincourt. Then call we this the field of Agincourt. Fought on the day of Crispin Crispianus. Do we now all holy rites? Let there be sung non nobis and te deum. The dead with charity enclosed in clay, and then to Calais, and to England then, when there from France arrived more happy men. Duty to you both on equal love, great kings of France and England. Since then my office hath so far prevailed that face to face and royal eye to eye you have congreted, let it not disgrace me if I demand before this royal view what rub or what impediment there is. Why, that the naked, poor, and mangled peace, dear nurse of arts, plenties, and joyful births, should not in this best garden of the world, our fertile France, put up her lovely visage. Alas, she hath from France too long been chased, and all her husbandry doth lie on heaps, corrupting in its own fertility. Her vine, the merry cheerer of the heart, unpruned dies, her hedges even bleached, like prisoners wildly overgrown with hair, put forth disordered twigs. The even mead that Ernst brought forth, the freckled cowslip, burnet, and green clover, wanting the scythe, all uncorrected, rank, conceives by idleness and nothing teems, but hateful docks, rough thistles, kexies, burrs, losing both beauty and utility. And all our vineyards, fallows, meads, and hedges, defective in their natures, grow to wildness. Even so our houses and ourselves and children have lost or do not learn for want of time the sciences that should become our country, but grow like savages, as soldiers will, who nothing do but meditate on blood. To swearing and stern looks, diffused attire, and everything that seems unnatural, which to reduce into my former favour, you are assembled, and my speech entreats that I may know the let why gentle peace should not expel these inconveniences, and bless us with her former qualities. The King of France hath granted every article. His daughter first, and then in sequel, all according to their firm proposed natures, that the contending kingdoms of France and England, whose very shores look pale with envy of each other's happiness, may cease their hatred, and this dear conjunction plant neighbourhood and Christian-like accord in their sweet bosoms, that never war advance, his bleeding sword twixt England and fair France.
rough and all unable pen, our bending author have pursued the story. In little room confining mighty men, mangling by starts the full course of their glory. Small time, but in that small, most greatly lived this star of England. Fortune made his sword, by which the world's best garden he achieved, and of it left his son, imperial lord, which oft our stage hath shown, and for their sake, in your fair minds, let this acceptance take.
Symphony Orchestra and Chorus, with the Bournemouth Symphony Youth Chorus and Children's Choir in that rousing music. Henry V, a Shakespeare scenario. And what a superb performance from actor Alex Hassel. Music originally composed for the cinema by William Walton, arranged by Christopher Palmer. And that film, Henry V, released in 1944, Sir Laurence Olivier starred and directed. And as I'm sure you've heard, Walton took inspiration from Shakespeare's time with melodies from the Fitzwilliam Virginal book. And he also borrowed a pair of old French battle songs, a few French folk songs, which he found in Canteloup's Songs of the Auvergne. All of it adding up to an incredibly effective and evocative brew.